We're talking about Gachiakuta today, guys, and it is the trashiest anime out right now. Like, its title literally translates to legit trash. But as the old saying goes, one man's trash is another weeaboo's favorite series. Gachiakuta takes place in a world called the Sphere. Now, the Sphere pretty much works under a caste system. On one hand, you have the Spherites, who are basically the upper-class citizens of this world. And then you have the so-called tribesfolk, who happen to be in the crappier, lower class of the Sphere's social hierarchy. Tribesfolk, of course, are poor as hell, and the reason that the Spherites look down on them is because these people are descended from criminals. You know, like 18th century Australians! Oh, and there's also a place in the Sphere called the Pit. Now, the Pit is this giant hole in the ground where people of the Sphere send their garbage. And by garbage, we don't mean just used contraceptives and iPhone 16s. Spherites literally throw people down there if they catch the upper class's ire. So, Gachiakuta's story revolves around a young man named Rudo. Rudo is a member of the tribesfolk, and, like a typical real-world second-class citizen, Rudo isn't at all happy that he gets to live in the boondocks of the Sphere. Call it jelly, call it righteous indignation. The point is that Rudo hates the Spherites, because why not? You try chowing down on leftovers 24/7. Oh, and Rudo's life sucks so bad that not only is he poor, but our boy suffers from a weird disease in his hands. His pain is only alleviated thanks to a pair of gloves that Regto, his adoptive father, has given him. So yeah, starving, impoverished, and not a single palm you can use at night to rub one out and forget how miserable your life is. That's a recipe for some delicious shonen protagonist drama right there. And speaking of the kind of life that's crappier than that Naruto costume you bought off Alibaba, even the tribesfolk hate Rudo's guts because his real dad's apparently a serial murderer who was once yeeted into the pit. But Rudo's a trooper. That is to say, he makes do in spite of the doo-doo. Hell, he even has a sweetheart named Chiwa. And no amount of poverty can stop a boy on the cusp of puberty from trying to gain brownie points from his crush. So, one day, Rudo goes out into town to dig through some trash and look for a gift he could give Chiwa. He finds a stuffed toy and hands it to his girl. Little does our raggedy hero know that his life's about to get even crappier. That's because that same day, Rudo comes home to find Regto getting stabbed to death by some rando. And just to add insult to injury, the killer even steals a book from their shanty. Rudo tries to save Regto, but the old man bites the dust in the end. But not before going all like, "It's up to you now, son. You have to avenge me." And you have to change this whole world for the better, too. So yeah. And Rudo's all like, "Wait, what? Avenge you? Change the whole world? Like the whole world? Like the whole thing?" Yeah. It's my dying wish, son, so you have to. Your hands are tied, you know? I can't even afford a cheeseburger. Dad? Oh, he's dead. So far, so right? Well, we're hoping you're into two girls sharing one cup because things are about to get even because Rudo ends up accused of his stepdad's murder shortly after that. So both the Spherites and the tribesfolk gang up on our hero and sentence him to be thrown into the pit. They make a whole show out of it. Chiwa's there too, so yeah! Of course, Rudo's all, "Hold on, I didn't do it." And everyone's like, "Yes, you did." "What? Tell them, Chiwa, you can confirm my alibi." And she was like, yeah, I'd rather just hug this sweet stuffed toy and watch your ass get exiled." "You people don't even have any proof." "Yes, we do. You're poor." "That's not K-Bar!" Rudo swears to get his revenge, and they throw him into the even shittier world of the pit. There, Rudo awakens to find himself about to be attacked by a literal trash monster. So Rudo makes a run for it. Our guy almost loses composure, but he ultimately gets a second wind after remembering the promise he made to his stepdad. Unknown to him, some shady dude has been watching all this unfold, and when Rudo eventually gasses out from the pit's super stinky toxic fumes, this as-yet unnamed guy decides to intervene. The mysterious dude hands Rudo a gas mask and introduces himself as Engine. Now, Engine works as a cleaner, which are people who kill trash monsters. Cleaners are made up of people who are called givers, and they're basically your prototypical chosen ones who are able to use tools called vital instruments, which are basically powerful tools powered by thought. Oh, and residents of the pit call this whole world the ground. Expedition dump aside, Engine helps Rudo get out of this pickle. Later, Rudo gets all aggro and demands Engine take him back to the Sphere. To which Engine's all like, "Yeah, that's not gonna happen, So, Engine takes Rudo to the local truck stop, and they live happily ever after. Just kidding. Come on, guys. How happy can you get in a world that looks like Jennifer Aniston's living room after one of her pizza parties? Anyway, the ground locals instantly recognize Rudo as a tourist of the Sphere. So they kidnap the kid and sell him off in the black market. In turn, turn, Rudo bites a couple of fingers off one of his abductors and, surprise, surprise, he awakens his powers as a giver and proceeds to give these scumbags their comeuppance. Engine jumps in and reveals that this has all been a test to see if Rudo has the stones to become a cleaner. He offers our boy a spot in their organization in exchange for showing him the ropes around this filthy place, but Rudo turns him down. However, Engine is a consummate salesman if nothing else, so instead of going their separate ways, Engine takes Rudo to a doctor to get him patched up and pitches him to join the cleaners. Along the way, Engine tells Rudo that he's basically an unwashed Harry Potter and explains the gist of what a giver is. Long story short, givers have the ability to give life to inanimate objects. This makes our boy wonder if joining the cleaners would eventually allow him to reach the sphere in the future. Engine has no idea if that's possible, but he baits Rudo further and tells him that the head of the cleaners might know a way out of the pit. It works, too, because Rudo finally buys into it and accepts the job. A stray cat then steals Rudo's wallet, which makes us question why in hell this filthy kid even has one if he's so poor. Regardless, Rudo grabs a stick and chases after the critter, but then it turns out what our kid grabbed was no ordinary stick. It's actually a vital instrument owned by another cleaner named Zanka, who also happens to be Rudo's assigned mentor. Zanka, of course, confronts Rudo for stealing his magic stick. Our boy apologizes and gives it back, and the two have a nice little chat in an alleyway. Their encounter gets heated, however, when Zanka tries to big brother Rudo, which makes our boy foam at the mouth. The two start to tussle, but Zanka immediately runs the other way when he sees Rudo pick up a weapon from the dumpster, an old plunger. Our boy then uses his giver powers to activate it, and at this point, even the cat knows Rudo's about to turn the whole alleyway into a G.G. Allin concert. Rudo uses his magic plunder to fling poo at Zanka, and the rest, as they say, is history. Later, Engine picks them up with his sweet Jeep where Rudo meets another cleaner named Rio. Now, Rudo might be uneducated and unsanitized, but a teenage boy has needs, so he instantly crushes on Rio when he sees her. Fair play too, because Rio might smell like warm mayonnaise, but she's a redhead, so nice. Soon after, Engine takes Rudo to the cleaner's head office for employee orientation. There, he meets Semiyu, a Nubian goddess working as the cleaner office's receptionist and new hire screener. Semiyu has a pair of glasses that allows her to quote-unquote reveal a person's true nature and uses it on Rudo. In turn, what Semiyu sees in Rudo shocks her so much that wax comes out of her ears. That looks so... She doesn't quite reveal exactly what she saw, but Semiyu goes, "Oh wow, kid's a natural. No need for basic training." And Engine's all, "For real?" "Yeah, he's basically an unwashed Harry Potter." That's exactly what I told him. Rudo wants to get a meeting with the organization's head, but they're out of the office right now. So, Rio proposes he make himself useful and do some shadowing with her on a mission. Semiyu debriefs the kids about trash monsters pestering a nearby settlement. Oh, and Semiyu gives a quick exposition dump of the ground's lay of the land, too. Simply put, the whole place is divided into two categories. You have safe zones, which are inhabitable, and polluted zones, the same areas in which trash monsters emerge and loiter around. Anyway, Semiyu sends out Rio and Rudo to their mission. I didn't really know how to say one of these next names, so I just recorded a few takes. Where they're accompanied by a trio of so-called supporters named Follow, Grease, and Tome. Named Follow, Grease, and Tomei. Named Follow, Grease, and Tomu. Named Follow, Grease, and Tom. Now, supporters are also employees of the cleaners, except that they're just regular human beings who make the givers' jobs easier. You know, supporters. The group soon reaches the coordinates and starts to get to work. Everything is more or less business as usual until a huge trash monster appears and starts stinking up the whole place. At first, the trash monster appears to be impervious to our hero's attacks until Rio spots its weak point. Even sweeter, the group finds a loot after defeating the creature. Somewhere else, one of the kidnappers from the truck stop wakes up to find himself in a dumpy living room where a hooded figure starts asking him questions about Rudo. Later, Rudo's group gets back to Cleaner HQ, where all the other members treat them like a post-cleanup party. Being the newbie that he is, Rio doesn't want to get sloppy and instead spends the night moping in a corner. However, Follow and his other cleaners manage to cheer up this sad boy, which makes Rudo realize that he might be more broke than a Marxist, but at least he has friends now. Hooray! High fives all around! On the other hand, the smelly would-be kidnapper from earlier is killed by his captor after giving out info about Rudo. And if that's not bad enough, his killer looks like Roz Trent. Not long after, Semiyu assigns the cleaners a new mission. This one requires them to retrieve precious cargo that a merchant has lost to a trash monster, and this cargo happens to be a spherite. Rudo, of course, wants in on the action, so he joins the team led by his poo-stained senpai, Zanka. They soon reach the mission's coordinates, where they meet the same merchant who commissioned the cleaners. The merchant offers our heroes help in traversing the trash monster's lair. On the other hand, Zanka thinks that something fishy is going on with this whole mission. Still, the cleaners accept the offer. Well, guess who's right to be sus? Zanka, that's who. Because it doesn't take long before the merchant screws them over and leads our heroes into a trap. The team gets separated, but Rudo luckily gets to stick with Zanka following Grease. A couple of raiders, basically post-apocalyptic style muggers, then attack our heroes with the goal of kidnapping Rudo. One of them also happens to be the same guy who killed the snitch earlier, Roz Trent. A fight ensues, of course, and Rudo's made to look like dead weight when Zanka and the two supporters do most of the work. Zanka fends off one of the raiders, but Roz Trent goes after Rudo during following Grease's attempt to get him to safety, while Zanka is left behind. Rudo and the group are almost at the exit when Roz Trent causes a cave-in to block their path. And boy, this criminal is one cabby because instead of just doing his job, Roz Trent blabs about how a certain individual is interested to meet Rudo. This filthy mugger also informs the group that Zanka is still alive somewhere in this place, because sure, telling your enemies the details of your plan always works out for the villain. In any case, Roz Trent tells Rudo to come with him if he wants to live, and immediately goes on the offensive. Grease proves he's ride or die when he protects Rudo from the raiders' attack, which ends up nearly killing the poor dude. Of course, in true shonen tradition, Rudo's giver power awakens after seeing his pal almost bite the dust. With a bit of help from Grease's talisman and a quick motivational flashback later, Rudo's anima appears in the form of a freaky crimson barrier that gives our hero Lockdown D. On the other hand, we find out that Roz Trent's real name is actually Jabber, and he is one crazy son of a bitch. So crazy, in fact, that Jabber uses his own poison-laced claws on himself after Rudo decks him out. In doing so, Jabber is able to basically turn himself into a zombie fighter, because hey, you can't kill someone who's already dead, right? Smart. Jabber starts wrecking shop, which forces Rudo to protect following Grease. He takes a hit from one of Jabber's poison claws in the process. On the bright side, Zanka catches up to our hero, though we find out that he's been dosed with Jabber's poison earlier too. Rudo and Zanka double team the villain, but the poison gets the better of them. Zanka's knocked out, while Rudo's left dead in the water after his anima disappears. And like a true Rastafarian who's recently discovered the sweet leaf, Jabber can't get enough of his own supply. So the dude doses himself with more of that poison as he proceeds to kidnap Rudo. But as if on cue, Rio, Engine, and the other cleaners arrive to rescue our boy shortly after. You also have to give it to Jabber, because there's no quitting in this guy. I mean, he makes it known he's not going to tuck tail and runs until his boss gives him the green light. Now that is company loyalty. In turn, Rudo gets a second wind and tells his friends he'll handle Jabber. Again, Jabber can't keep his mouth shut and gives Rudo more hints about the people he works for. Specifically, this dreadlocked Asian tells our hero that his boss has the same symbol found on Rudo's gloves. We get blue-balled from another epic anime showdown when Jabber's partner Chthoni arrives to tell him it's time to go. The raiders escape, and our heroes regroup to lick their wounds. Later, Rudo's all sad because he was too weak to protect Grease, but our boy's mood changes when he learns that Grease survived his wounds. I couldn't pronounce this next name either. This is all thanks to another cleaner named Aisha. This is all thanks to another cleaner named Isha. This is all thanks to another cleaner named Aisha. This is all thanks to another cleaner named Isha, who's pretty much a medic among their ranks. Afterwards, Rudo finally meets the cleaners' boss, Arca. Arca formally initiates Rudo to their crew and dumps some exposition on our hero, namely that there's a lethal barrier separating the ground from the sphere, and in between these two is a place called No Man's Land. Arca goes on to tell Rudo that there's a woman rumored to be living on No Man's Land. Rudo thinks this woman might help him find a way back to the sphere, so he gets all gung-ho and tries to make a beeline for the place. But Engine tells him to slow his roll because he might be a blue-chip prospect, but he's still a rookie. You know what time it is, people. It's training montage time. Long story short, Rudo learns that his giver abilities allow him to tap on multiple garbage at once, which he can use as weapons without breaking all of a sudden. Somewhere else, Jabber and Chthoni meet with their boss, who gives us more plot breadcrumbs when he says that Rudo's gloves and his armor are part of something called the Watchmen series. We assumed that the Watchmen series was created by a grumpy wizard from Northampton, but don't take our word for it. Rudo and the cleaners make the necessary preparations for their trip to No Man's Land, which goes by another name, Penta. Soon enough, they arrive there and meet a girl named Amo, whom they suspect is the woman they're looking for. However, Amo is one flirty minx who loves deflecting whenever Ruto asks her about whether she knows how to safely cross over to the sphere. And soon enough, this questionably hot slum dweller reveals her true colors when she screws over our heroes using her pheromonic giver powers. The long and short of it is that Amo has the ability to hypnotize you into becoming one of her thirsty followers by projecting an image of your loved ones. Most of the cleaners, including Ruto, fall for Amo's trick. In turn, Zanka and another cleaner named Tomsy still have their heads in the game and are forced to battle their pig-whipped allies. The scuffle culminates when Zanka and Tomsy rescue their friends just by the skin of their teeth. Things get super dark when Ruto recovers, and after realizing Amo just catfished him, he goes full Chris Brown on the trashy trickster. Thankfully, Engine pulls our boy away from Amo after remembering this is supposed to be a fun shonen anime series, and just before the episode ends, we find out that, yep, Amo's not the woman they're looking for. On the bright side, Amo does clue them into the fact that she saw a so-called angel, safely going back and forth that boundary between the ground and the sphere. And that is it, guys. That was the first half of Gachiakuta Season 1. Thank you for sticking with us until the very end. We hope that you loved watching the video. Do not be shy. Drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts about it. If you have any other manga, manhwa, or anime you want us to cover next, we'd really appreciate it if you can help the channel grow by giving us a like, share, subscribing, keeping that notification bell turned on. We've got more videos for you, so feel free to check those ones out too. We're sure you're gonna love them. Okay, it's time for shower. Bye!